Chosen one, let me be honest with you right now. What I'm about to share with you isn't something I say to everyone. In fact, most people who sit across from me, or read my words, or watch my videos, they get the polished version, the cleaned up, carefully packaged, socially acceptable version. The version that keeps everybody comfortable and keeps the peace and doesn't rock any boats. But you're different. I can feel it. And I know that sounds like exactly the kind of thing someone says when they're about to sell you something. Trust me, I'm aware of how this opens. But stay with me because I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to tell you the truth. And the truth, as it turns out, is a little terrifying. You were chosen for something specific. Not in the way a fortune cookie tells you that you're destined for greatness. Not in the vague, feel-good sense that every motivational poster plastered on a high school gymnasium wall wants you to believe. I mean chosen in the specific, uncomfortable, almost unfair sense of the word. You were wired differently. You process the world differently. You feel the gap between what is and what could be more acutely than the people around you. And that gap, that ache, that constant low-level dissatisfaction that you've probably tried to explain to people who just didn't get it. That's not a flaw, that's the signature, that's how you know. But here's what nobody tells you, and this is the part I probably shouldn't be saying because it complicates everything. Being chosen doesn't mean being saved. It doesn't mean the road gets easier. It doesn't mean the universe pulls strings behind the curtain so that things fall into place while you sit back and watch. Being chosen means being handed a weight that most people never have to carry, and being expected by something deeper than social obligation, something almost cellular, to carry it anyway. To carry it without a map, often without applause, frequently without any evidence that it's going to lead anywhere at all. And the cruelest part? The people closest to you often can't see it. Your family, your oldest friends, the people who love you most genuinely, they look at you and they see someone who is restless, or difficult, or too much, or not quite satisfied with a life that looks perfectly fine from the outside. They're not wrong about what they observe. They're just wrong about what it means. What they read as dysfunction is actually signal. What they interpret as your inability to settle is actually your inability to betray. Because somewhere deep in you there's something you refuse to betray, a vision, a standard, a version of yourself and the world that you cannot fully name but cannot fully abandon either. I've spent years watching people who had this quality. I've spent years studying the difference between those who honored it and those who didn't. And I'll tell you this plainly, the ones who tried to smother it, who took the comfortable job, stayed in the comfortable relationship, chose the comfortable version of themselves because the world made it easier, they didn't escape the calling, they just buried it. And buried things don't disappear, they rot. They show up as midlife unraveling, as a bitterness that has no specific target, as a vague and persistent grief that visits at 3 in the morning and never quite explains itself. You know the grief I'm talking about. Maybe you've already felt it. Maybe it's what brought you here. Now, and I need you to really hear this, there's a story the world tells about people like you. It goes something like this. You're waiting to be discovered. You're waiting for the moment when somebody with power and influence and resources finally sees you clearly and gives you the signal to begin. You're waiting for permission. You're waiting for conditions to be perfect, for your confidence to be high enough, for your skills to be sharp enough, for the circumstances to line up in a way that removes all the risk and all the ambiguity and makes the path forward obvious. You're waiting, in short, for certainty. And the world tells you that's wisdom. The world tells you that's patience. The world tells you that's being responsible. The world is lying to you. Certainty is not coming. It never comes first. I want you to look at every person you have ever genuinely admired. Not the celebrity version of them, not the retrospective myth of them, but the actual human being navigating the actual moment when they made the choice that defined them. And I want you to find me one, just one, who had certainty before they began. You won't find it, because that's not how it works. Certainty is not the precondition for the leap. Certainty is the reward, fragile, temporary, always evolving, that sometimes comes after, sometimes doesn't come at all, and you just keep going anyway because what else would you do? The chosen ones throughout history, and I use that phrase not to be dramatic but because it's accurate, were not people who had everything figured out. Moses argued with God about his own qualifications. Joan of Arc was 19 years old. MLK wrote Letter from Birmingham Jail while sitting in an actual jail cell with no guarantee that anyone would ever read it, let alone that it would become one of the most important documents in American history. These weren't people who waited for perfect circumstances. These were people who moved inside imperfect circumstances because the alternative, staying still, was more unbearable than the risk. You have been trained, probably since childhood, to manage other people's comfort levels. You learned, because you're perceptive and because you adapted, that when you were too much, people pulled back. When you expressed the full voltage of who you are, it made rooms uncomfortable. So you learned to dim. You got very, very good at dimming. You can walk into almost any environment and modulate yourself down to whatever wattage keeps everyone at ease. It's actually an extraordinary skill, and it is killing you. Not dramatically, not all at once, just slowly, just steadily. Just the way a river carves a canyon, incrementally, invisibly, until one day you look down and realize that something enormous has been eroded away, and you can't remember exactly when it happened, only that it did. Here's what I shouldn't be telling you, but here we are. Your dimming is not modesty. I know it feels like modesty. I know it's been dressed up in the language of humility and social grace and not wanting to seem arrogant. But I want to push on that for a moment, because I think if you're honest, really honest, the kind of honest you can only manage at 2 in the morning when nobody's watching, you'll recognize that the dimming isn't about protecting other people, it's about protecting yourself. Because if you show up fully and it doesn't work, if you bring everything and the world still says no, then you have to face something that's almost too large to face. The possibility that the fullness of you might not be enough. And that possibility is so devastating that you'd rather never test it. But here's the thing I truly, genuinely shouldn't be telling you, because it is one of those truths that once you hear it, you can't unhear it, and it will make your comfortable self-protective strategies much harder to maintain. You are not protecting yourself by hiding. You are simply choosing a slower, quieter devastation over a faster, louder one. You are trading the sharp, clean pain of trying and possibly failing for the dull, chronic pain of never having tried at all. And the dull, chronic pain, I need you to know this, it compounds. It doesn't stay the same. Every year you carry it, it gets heavier. I'm not saying this to be cruel. I'm saying this because I genuinely believe that you are reading these words for a reason, not a mystical reason, not a cosmic assignment from the universe's scheduling department, but a real human reason, because something in you is not done, because you haven't fully surrendered yet, because there is still a part of you, tired as it is, battered as it is, skeptical as it has every right to be, that is still listening for something true. And here it is. Here is the true thing. You are going to have to disappoint some people. This is not negotiable. The version of you that finally steps into what you're supposed to be doing will not fit neatly into the expectations that have been built around you. It will unsettle people. It will confuse people. Some of them will feel personally offended, as if your expansion is somehow a critique of the smallness they chose for themselves. Some of them will try to talk you out of it, not because they're evil, but because your change threatens their worldview, and that's uncomfortable, and people generally prioritize their own comfort. Let them be uncomfortable. You do not owe anyone your diminishment. This is, I suspect, the thing that no one has said to you directly. You've heard "follow your dreams" 1,000 times, in 1,000 different flavors, with varying degrees of sincerity. But follow your dreams gets said in a way that implies everybody around you will eventually come around and cheer. What they don't tell you is that some of them won't. Some of them will stay confused or distant or quietly resentful forever, and you will grieve that. Of course you will, because you're not a sociopath, but you will grieve it from a place of wholeness rather than from a place of suppression. And wholeness, even grieving wholeness, is an entirely different quality of life than suppression. Let me tell you about the mechanics of how this actually unfolds, because I think we've been abstract long enough and you deserve something concrete. The beginning is always the worst part. Not because the challenges are actually hardest at the beginning. In some ways the beginning is pure, unencumbered by the weight of maintenance and consistency, but because the beginning is the part where you have the least evidence that you're doing the right thing. You're working with faith before you have proof, and that is, by definition, uncomfortable. Every creative person, every entrepreneur, every person who has ever built anything from nothing has a story about the beginning that involves some variation of, "I thought I was losing my mind. I had no idea if this was going to work. I questioned everything, including whether I was fundamentally delusional about my own ability and vision." That phase is not a warning sign, it's a rite of passage. The people who mistake it for a warning sign are the ones who turn back. What keeps you going through the beginning is not confidence. Confidence, as I said, comes later. What keeps you going is commitment. And commitment is different from motivation. Motivation is the feeling you have on a good day when everything seems possible and your energy is high and you can see exactly where you're headed. Commitment is what you do on the bad days, on the gray days, on the days when the feeling has evaporated and all you have left is the decision you made. Motivation is a wave. Commitment is the boat. You need the boat. And here's one of the deeper secrets, one I truly shouldn't be sharing because it flies in the face of so much contemporary self-help mythology. You are not going to be motivated every day. You are not going to feel inspired every day. You are not going to wake up every morning with fire in your chest and clarity in your vision and wind at your back. Some mornings you are going to wake up and feel nothing except mild dread and the low-grade exhaustion of being a human being who carries too many things. And on those mornings, the mission still stands, the work still exists. The calling didn't take the day off because you're tired. This is not a punishment. This is the texture of a real life lived in service of something real. The romanticism around creative and purposeful work, the idea that if you're truly aligned with your calling, everything flows effortlessly and you exist in a state of permanent inspiration, is not just false, it's actively harmful. Because when the hard days come, and they will come, you'll think it means you chose wrong. You'll think the difficulty is a sign that you're off track. You'll use the absence of easy as evidence that you should redirect, and you'll be wrong. Difficulty is not a sign you're heading the wrong direction. Often, difficulty is a sign you're heading somewhere real. Now I want to talk about the people, the ones already in your life, and the ones who are coming. Because this is in some ways the most practical and the most tender piece of what I want to leave with you. There are people in your world who are not going to make it with you to the next version of yourself. This isn't betrayal, it isn't abandonment, it's just the mathematics of growth. Not everyone can grow at the same pace, in the same direction, at the same time. Some relationships are built for who you were, not who you're becoming. And when you begin to become, those relationships will strain. Some will snap. You will lose people you love, not because you did anything wrong, but because you changed in the direction of yourself. And that is, for some people, an unforgivable thing. Grieve them honestly. Don't pretend it doesn't hurt. Don't perform some spiritual transcendence where you rise above it all with a beatific smile. It will hurt. Let it hurt, and then keep going. Because here's the other side of that equation, and this part is worth everything. As you step more fully into who you are, you will begin to encounter the people who were made for this version of you. People who speak your language, who feel the same gap you feel, who have also been carrying the weight of the calling without a name for it. These meetings will be extraordinary. They will feel like recognition rather than introduction. They will feel like coming home. Those people are waiting, not passively. They're out there doing their own work, growing into their own becoming. But they are waiting in the sense that the encounter is possible, is probably inevitable, and will not happen until you show up as yourself. Your authentic self is a homing signal. Your dimmed-down, socially modulated, carefully managed self is static. The people who are meant to find you, the collaborators, the mentors, the beloveds, the fellow travelers, they can't find static. They need signal. You have to turn it up. There's one more thing. One more thing I shouldn't be telling you, except here we are, and you've come this far, and you deserve the full picture. The question you're probably carrying, the one underneath all the other questions, the one that shows up most insistently in the quiet, is some version of, what if I do all of this and it still doesn't work? What if I show up fully and commit fully and disappoint whoever needs to be disappointed and do the work on the gray days and the hard days and the days that feel like moving through wet concrete, and at the end of it the world still doesn't receive what I have to offer? What if I'm not enough? Here is the only honest answer I can give you. That might happen. Not because you're not enough. Let me be clear, I don't believe that, and I don't think you should believe it either. But because the world is not a merit system. The world is a complex, chaotic, often unfair ecosystem in which talent and effort and courage and commitment are necessary but not always sufficient. Sometimes extraordinary people build extraordinary things and the timing is wrong, or the platform is insufficient, or the culture isn't ready, and the thing doesn't land the way it deserved to. That is real. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But here's what I need you to hold alongside that truth. The cost of trying and failing is not the same as the cost of never trying. People speak of these as equivalent risks, as if the worst-case scenario of attempting is the same as the worst-case scenario of retreating. They are not the same. The person who tried and failed knows something the person who retreated never will. They know the actual shape of their courage. They know what they were truly made of when it counted. They know that the voice inside them that said go was real, and that they honored it regardless of outcome. That knowledge is not a consolation prize, it is its own kind of wholeness. And practically speaking, concretely, statistically speaking, the people who try more, fail more. They also succeed more, because success for a chosen one is not a single lottery ticket. It's a practice. It's a body of work built over time, refined through failure, shaped by every collision between your vision and reality's resistance. The failures are not detours. They are the education. They are, in many cases, the very thing that makes the eventual success possible, because they showed you what doesn't work, what you don't actually want, what you're willing to fight through and what you're not. You've been sitting with this weight long enough. You've been circling the edge of your own life, looking down into it, feeling the pull and resisting the leap, because the leap requires something you're not sure you have. But here's what I know, and here's the last thing I'll say, and I mean it completely. You have it. Not because I know your specific gifts or your specific circumstances or the specific shape of the thing you're being called toward, but because you are here, because you read this far, because the part of you that needed to hear this found a way to hear it. That part, the listening part, the still not done part, the refusing to betray part, that is the most important asset you have. More important than talent, more important than timing, more important than any external resource or advantage or connection. A person who still hears the call, who still listens, who has not yet gone quiet, that person is not finished. Not by a long way. So here we are, you and I having this conversation I technically shouldn't be having, saying the things that don't make it into the polished version. And what I want to leave you with is not a roadmap. I don't have your roadmap, and anyone who claims to have it for you is selling something. What I want to leave you with is this. The fact that you feel chosen is not arrogance. The fact that you feel the gap between what is and what could be is not ingratitude. The fact that you cannot fully settle into a life that doesn't match the one you can feel at the edges of your imagination is not dysfunction. It is, in fact, the most important information you possess. Honor it. Don't be reckless. Honor it thoughtfully, strategically, with both urgency and patience. But honor it. Stop waiting for the world to confirm what you already know. Stop looking for permission in faces that don't have the authority to give it or the vision to understand what they'd be permitting. Stop auditing your own worthiness through the lens of people who never asked themselves the questions you're asking. You were chosen for something. You have been told, officially here in this strange and specific conversation, that the weight you carry is real, that the vision is real, that the restlessness is real, and the calling is real, and the version of yourself that you catch glimpses of in your clearest moments is real. Now, what are you going to do about it? Because that part is entirely yours.